Attacks on Catholic priests in Nigeria are occurring at an alarming rate. Earlier this month, the priest was burned alive in his home during an attempted burglary. Catholic priests are being murdered in Nigeria. Joining me now to shed light on what's happening in Africa is senior fellow at the Hudson Institute Center for Religious Freedom, Nina Shea. Nina, thanks for coming. A Nigerian Catholic priest, Father Isaac Achi, was burned alive, another seriously injured earlier this month during an attempted burglary. Why is this happening? Why are we seeing this uptick of violence against particularly Catholic priests in Nigeria?
Well, there have been 20 priests, Catholic priests, at least 20 priests since the beginning of 2022 who have been abducted, and 5 were killed last year, and then including this Father Ache in his rectory. And that's another thing to realize, Raymond, that these priests are being hunted down in their church grounds and in their rectories. They are not just random victims. They are being targeted. And they're being targeted by all sides. There's various Islamist groups, and there's people that are called bandits or herders or gunmen. These are members of, these are militant members of the Fulani tribe up in the north and central parts of Nigeria. The president, Buhari of Nigeria, and Nigeria, by the way, is the most populous country in Nigeria that's half Christian, half Muslim, and has one of the largest economies. So if it destabilizes along religious, ethnic grounds, it's going to be devastating for the entire sub-Saharan region. It's going to destabilize that. Wow. But this president is irresponsibly and wrongly and cruelly really exploiting his political base. He's giving a pass to his political base, which are these northern Muslim tribes, not prosecuting anyone for these horrible crimes. It has been the subject of Catholic bishops' complaints in Nigeria recently.
Where is the United States at this moment? Why aren't we hearing anything from the Biden administration? We give aid to these countries like we pour water. Why aren't we attaching some sort of guarantees of protection for these religious minorities along with that aid?
Well, we should be doing so, and we're pushing for that. We hope that there will be legislation or a resolution in Congress to that effect shortly. It's our priority. And Raymond, I think that's overstated. I think there were 39 incidents or 30 incidents. Aid to the Church in Needs has the list. It's 20 priests abducted and 5 murdered, and that's big enough. Open Doors came out with a new report saying that 90% of all the Christians killed in the world, murdered for their faith in 2022, were in Nigeria. And 90% of those abducted were in Nigeria, of all the Catholic priests. So abducted.
And what's driving this, Nina? I mean, is it just anti-Christian bias from these Muslim tribes? Is that what's driving this? And then a politician taking advantage of it? Well,
I think that there is. The State Department likes to blame, believe it or not, climate change, which is, that's an excuse for doing nothing. There can be no policy that will rectify that in the next short term. So I think there is a radicalization going on. We have ISIS in Nigeria, in the northeastern part. We have Boko Haram, which is another terror group. Ansar. I mean, there's a lot of terror groups in the region and in Nigeria itself. And these criminals, these other Muslims are becoming militant. And I think that they have an agenda. There used to be a caliphate in that region in the early 19th century. And I think that there's a sort of longing for that, again, as an answer to some of their problems. These are nomadic herdsmen of the Fulani tribe, and they've been allowed to go rampage with impunity. The government does not arrest them. The security forces do not arrest them. The security forces have not been trained and reinforced, and have been given no command to do that. And so there's no prosecution.
Nina,
people are killed.
Nina, you are drafting a Nigeria religious atrocity bill for the U.S. House of Representatives right now. How do you hope that bill will further the cause and protect the Christians in this region? And what do you seek to do? What does it seek to do?
Well, it seeks several things, Raymond. The first is the acknowledgement that this is going on, that there is religious persecution happening, religious hostility. And and the State Department refuses to do that. Again, blaming it on climate change, which is absurd. And then, I mean, there may be a climate change element, but they're killing children, they're beheading women, enslaving women, Christian women. So this is terrorist activity. Second, we hope to get a special envoy appointed to the region, because the State Department is obviously not getting the correct information, it's getting biased information from our embassy in Nigeria, and has been for a long time. So they need to have the facts before them in an authoritative way, and a special envoy, a good one, could do that. We also hope to see more aid to the local civil groups, especially the faith-based groups that are trying to care for these horribly mutilated survivors, and mutilated physically and psychologically. They are overwhelmed right now with that work.
Nina, before we run out of time, I want you to update us on the plight of Cardinal Joseph Zen. We caught glimpses of him during Cardinal Pell's funeral. The CCP allowed him to go to Rome with restrictions. What can you tell us about his situation as he returns to China?
Yes, well, he had a temporary passport to go to Rome. He had to give it back, and he had to return. And he's being investigated for a national security crime. So that's a very serious offense. And Jimmy Lai is also facing those charges, and it could mean life imprisonment. So the 91-year-old cardinal now could spend his remaining years behind bars. He is actually voluntarily, we think, going to prison every day, according to Pope Francis. He goes there every day, all day, to minister to carry out his ministry with the prisoners.
Well, Nina, I'm glad you brought that up, that interview with Pope Francis. We covered it earlier with the AP. And he did speak of Cardinal Zen there. I want you to listen to this and give me your thoughts, your reaction. He's a charming old man. He's charming, Zen. Well, the Chinese, every one of them is charming when they want to be nice. They are very nice. He's in a process that's administrative, something like that. I didn't understand much of what it was. Something like if you were caught in the street driving without a license, a disciplinary thing. And it will end with him being forced to pay a fine and nothing more. What does Cardinal Zen do? He's a prison chaplain, and he spends it in prison all day long. He's a friend of the communist guards and the prisoners. Everyone welcomes him. He's a man of great character. The most feisty part of Zen is kind of disappearing. I'm not saying that it isn't there. It is there, but it is hidden behind this pastoral side. Now, Nina, I'm going to refrain from commenting because I'm probably too close to this story, but what do you make of the Pope's comments about this suffering cardinal in China?
Yeah, this comment is very strange. It's mystifying. Why would there be? It's a gratuitous disparaging, I think, of the cardinal, minimizing the legal trouble he's in, not just from the administrative case, which is ongoing, but he's appealing, but also this national security law. He's also, this started though, Raymond, I don't think this is just venting on the Pope's part because he's annoyed with him, although he clearly is. You know, this has been going on since his first arrest, when other top-level diplomatic officials from the Vatican condemned him as being stubborn, as having a psychological barrier, or intemperate. So this does not make sense, because Cardinal Zen is beloved as a heroic leader of the church by left, right, and center. I mean, I don't know anyone else who's critical of Cardinal Zen other than the Vatican officials. So I really don't understand it. I think that there is a bit of kowtowing going on here. I think that the Pope and the other diplomats are so intent on dialogue and maintaining a dialogue with the Chinese Communist Party that they want to show that they're not approving, they want to signal to them that they are not approving of anything Cardinal Zen says that may be critical of them.
Well, you know how Zen got on their bad side, Nina. He dared to speak out against that Vatican-China deal, and it's a bad deal. It compromised the religious freedom of faithful people. It destroyed and allowed the liturgy to be deformed in the Word of God itself. It forbade anyone under 18 from coming to a church. I mean, this is madness. So, of course, he spoke out against that to defend the faith of his people in Hong Kong and mainland China. And as you say, he's a hero to those people. And I'm gonna withhold giving full vent to this, but it is woe to those who would persecute and demonize someone like this man who's facing such awful persecution for standing for the truth. I cannot understand why Vatican officials would give voice to this kind of mean-spirited, nasty commentary when a man is facing imprisonment for the rest of his days. And that's the reality. I'll give you the last word.
Well, you're right, Raymond. It's not a good look at all for the Vatican. It makes, I think, them look bad because Cardinal Zen is so widely admired, universally admired around the world outside of the Chinese Communist Party. And the dialogue that he is being offered up for as a sacrificial lamb, so to speak, has been going on for 30 years. And it has borne virtually no fruit. I don't think it's borne any fruit.
Yeah, well, you can't dialogue with people when you represent nothing. You know, that's just called capitulation. The dialogue's easy. You do what I say, bye-bye. And that's basically what the Vatican is engaging in here. We will leave it there. You can follow the work and reporting of Nina Shea on the persecution of Christians in China and around the world by visiting hudson.org. Nina, thank you.
Thank you.